Welcome, everyone, to another podcast. Well, here we have another very wonderful and bright rocker country artist. His name is Justin Wright, and he's built a reputation of being an entertainer, and he pours out his heart and soul during his live performances. He also bears them both as a versatile songwriter and composer. Now, this guy's from Tennessee, and he's from a working class family, and he grew up influenced by the greats of classic rock and roll, alternative, and country music. And I don't know how you feel about jazz or classical, but we'll get into that. And opera, too. So he's been writing a decade of songs, but performing mainly acoustic on his guitar, and he goes to songwriters events. And he began to take his talents to a larger stage and audience, and it didn't take long for fans and industry experts to take notice. So we're going to say this that the melting pot of influence, along with his powerful and soulful vocals. And I heard your song Fatal Attraction, and you know whose voice came into my mind?
Who's that?
Chad Krieger.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
You
I've
sound a
actually.
lot like Chad Krieger. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I've actually been told that before. Yeah.
Yeah. You have that kind of rough vocal edge. I like it. We really like it. So now that you're at home just performing and rocking country songs, you're letting your hair down, you're having a good time, and but you just like to stick with the country genre. So we really love that song, Cause I Can. And I know that's debuted at number one, and it was written by you in Dirty Strings. And that song is now streaming on all platforms. Justin, nice meeting you. Thank you for joining us on the platform today. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me today. Very excited.
You're very welcome. Everyone, I have to make sure that you realize that Justin Wright is like Justin Wright is not the son of Gary Wright, Dreamweaver, and he's not the cellist either. So don't ask me how come you didn't ask him about his cello. So, can you tell us, Justin, a little bit about your background and how you got started in music?
Yeah, so I actually got a little bit later start than, I guess a lot of the people, a lot of my peers out there. A lot of people that are in music literally were either born into a music family or they started at a very young age. I was someone that really didn't get into music until I was in my early 20s. And it was one of those things where I'd always been told that vocally I was fairly strong. um, and then I graduated college and actually moved to the Nashville area and started working there, and it's there where I kind of got if you will, started rubbing elbows with people that were um, career musicians, or that's what their craft was. And to be able to be around those people really helped me evolve. I was a guy that just picked up the guitar and just kind of played in his living room, and all I did was really, I would just, like you said, I'm influenced by the greats of classic rock, country, and alternative music and everything like that. And all I was really basically doing at that point when I got there was just emulating them. And then, once I started sitting around circles, people that are songwriters, people within the music realm, if you will. I lived in a town called Murfreesboro, which is right outside of Nashville, and Murfreesboro is the home of Middle Tennessee State University, which has got one of the greatest music programs in the entire world, whether it be music business, music theory, things of that nature. So I was sitting in a cradle of a great opportunity to learn. And as I rubbed elbows with those people, they started. I dealt with songwriters, and I started writing a few things, and said, you really got a natural talent for this, and that's where it kind of evolved.
Yeah, but I'm kind of amazed that you started so late. Whatever, just didn't have any idea that you wanted to be a musician at 12 or 13 or younger?
Well,
Or
I had always loved music. I was one of those people that was uh, my spare time. If it didn't involve my studies, I was an athlete. And I'm not going to get deep into weeds with it, but I had an injury which prevented me from being able to play sports past the high school level.
wow.
And it's one of those things where when one thing is taken from you, it seems like there's always something else that fills that void in your life, and music was that thing for me. I truthfully believe in my heart of hearts that had that not happened to me at that age, and that void wasn't in my life, I may have never picked music up.
Yeah, I would have thought that you probably would have been some big football star or baseball star, but doesn't mean you can't do that now because if you're well enough to walk and your foot's okay, you should be able to go out there and do whatever you want now and do it with a guitar in your hand.
Well, absolutely, and I've always said this is that I feel like that the Lord has blessed me with opportunities, and I think His plan for me wasn't to be that athlete. His plan for me was to be that artist, and I can tell you this: in the amount of time that I have been an artist, I've been able to touch and help more people with music than I ever was able to do with sports.
That's interesting, Justin. Be interested in knowing, but why did you choose uh, the guitar as your primary instrument? Maybe there was a drums or even the triangle or a tuba or trumpet.
Well, I chose the guitar because, well, first and foremost, it's one of the most popular instruments there is out there. It's plentiful, and I actually make a joke with my. I say it's plentiful. That's not really a good way to put it, but I actually joke with my drummer, and I told my drummer, I said the only reason I didn't become a drummer is because I didn't want to tote all that equipment in and out to go to shows. But no, to be honest with you, I picked the guitar up because a vast majority of people that are songwriters have that guitar. They write a lot of their music with a guitar or a keyboard, which the keyboard is something that I kind of dabble in now because a lot of times it helps with the creative process. It's not something that I would play on stage per se, but being able to find the right notes, the right keys, and everything like that. A lot of times it's easier just to pick up a keyboard and just find it there. So I was always really enamored by the guitar. Most of the people that I considered heroes for me in the music industry were guitarists, or they were, singers that played the guitar. So that's really kind of what kind of pushed me to that instrument.
Is it easy for you to pick up a song like saying like uh, play like Tears in Heaven or something, just be able to spend 5 minutes learning it and suddenly you can play it? Or does it take you a while to pick up something?
Well, it's interesting because my guitar playing in itself has been an evolution. When I picked the guitar up and I started writing music, I literally had told myself that I just wanted to be able to play guitar well enough to write and structure songs. Didn't necessarily play it a lot out live. And basically what I did was I'd always played guitar to a point to where I needed it, to be sufficient. Well, I started playing live and I said, okay, well, I'm going to have to start picking this up. Over the last 3 or 4 years, yes, it is a situation where if somebody says, "Hey, you know, uh, hey, can you play this song?" Um, in some cases, just depending on the depth and the complexity of it, it's certain songs I can pick up and play within a matter of, just you know, maybe a minute or two. Now, certain songs have got more complexity to them, which I may say, okay, well, I can't play at this show, but let me get back to you. That type of thing. So the answer to that is yes and no, just depending on the complexity of the song.
So if I handed you a Gibson or a Taylor and then plugged it in and said, "Here, Justin, would you be able to play that too?"
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's and the other thing that I've really worked on too is each different guitar has different tonalities in it. You can pick up, and it's more so in electric guitars than it is acoustic guitars. But I have multiple guitars. I generally only perform with one guitar if I'm just being honest. But if it's one of those situations where, like for instance, a Fatal Attraction, the song that we just released, it's more of an ominous song. So what you want it to have that deeper, more of a resonating type of sound to it where "Cause I Can" is just that straightforward in your face rocking song. It may be a situation where Martin guitar has more resonation and it sounds better for that particular song. But because I can, I may pick my Alvarez up because it's more of that direct tone. So yeah, it's one of those situations where it's almost like if you're working on a car, you have a socket that's a certain size, and then you're like, okay, well, this is a bigger, I need a bigger socket to work with. Yes, you can do it with both of them, but it's easier, or your results are better, if you will, um, swapping them out. So
Yeah. When I was listening to your song of Fatal Attraction, and I think everyone, you should go look down below in the show notes. You'll see the YouTube channel. There's a song called Fatal Attraction. Listen to that song and you tell me who he sounds like. And I picked it up immediately. Chad Krieger. He sounds just like the guy from Creed. Really good, really good. So you got those pure vocals. Justin, thank you for allowing us to hear that song. I'd like to ask you, how would you describe your musical style and influences? Like it said, you liked different genres like country and rock and roll. Do you ever try to experiment with other genres, like maybe classical or something folkish kind of?
sure, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I just got done penning and composing a song that is actually it's what's called the trop rock genre. So if you know Jimmy Buffett, it's that type of thing. Just wrote a song that I've got a dear friend, Mr. Chuck Freeman, who's actually with Tough Duck Music. He handles my distribution, and he's really big into the trop rock scene. He's had a lot of hits. That
Hmm.
he's either played on or he's actually distributed or helped with. So he's in that wheelhouse.
Wow.
And you know, we got to talking, and he said, songwriters are songwriters, and generally they write. You can write to, if you're a good songwriter, you can write to any genre. And I actually, that's what I said. I have a melting pot of influences. I love the Jimmy Buffett stuff. I love the steel pan type of stuff, the Mac McAnally stuff. I love that stuff. Is it something that I feel like that I would want to perform a lot of? No, but it's also something that I would not mind performing at all at some point in my career. So he told me, he said, why don't you try your hand at this and do some
Hmm.
arrangements? I've written that song. I've actually got a couple of songs in that genre that I'm kind of writing right now that I've that's almost a finished song. The other ones I'm working on. I've actually had other artists as well that have reached out to me that are actually from other genres. I actually had a young man that we're going to be working with from the pop genre. That basically we listened to his catalog, and we talked about he talked about some of the things he wanted to do going forward, the way he wanted to evolve his sound. And I told him I'd absolutely help him out in terms of that. So yeah, I mean, just because I perform in a certain window or genre, it doesn't mean that I wouldn't write to other genres. Because I like music as a whole, and I respect all artists regardless of genres because it's art. It's art, and it involves a lot of work, and the respect level that I have for anybody, doesn't matter what genre is immense.
It's incredible, Justin. Yeah, the amount of work that goes into playing acoustic, and whether you use a pick or you use your fingernails. Like I've heard some fantastic guitarists play like Mozart, Chopin, anything that can only be played on piano. They were to go do like this. And one of them we had was Anna Vidovic. She's a Croatian guitarist. Fantastic for you to be able to pick up the guitar and said, okay, this song is about whatever, or be able to that like I would really like to learn the guitar. When I heard "Cause I Can," I'm thinking, okay, there's a story behind that. Justin, what's the story behind your latest song, "Cause I Can"? Give us the experience behind that.
Yeah, so "Cause I Can" was kind of an evolution of, uh, just I've told this story several times, and I said, uh, somebody actually just said, why did you do that, or why did you do that, or why do you react like that? And it rolled off my tongue. Said, because I can. And just like so many other songs, when that pops in my mind, I can be in the middle of nowhere, and I'm like, I'm not sitting in front of my computer. I'm not in my studio. I'm not captive. So you rush and you write that down, and when something pops in your head, I take a lot of notes. My phone is full of notes that when something pops in my mind, I'm the type of person, and I found this out over the course of time, is don't say, okay, well, I need to remember that, because I won't remember it. So I have to put it down
Mhm.
immediately to do that. So because I can was basically an evolution of just a small speck of moment in time in which I had just was basically done answering questions to a situation that, why do you do this? Why do you do that? Well, because I can. So
Yeah. And so I'm thinking that a Fatal Attraction, the story behind that is, well, because I can, but
yeah. So it's funny because I've said this a couple times on live shows with myself and the Dirty Strings. My band, the Dirty Strings,
Mhm.
and I will say this much: the evolution of these songs is a big part. They're a big part of that as well. They do a very good job of helping fill these songs out for me. In terms of their input, it is invaluable. But I digress. The and when I'm playing the shows, when I get to a Fatal Attraction, and when I play the song, I tell people, I say, you've heard all of these original songs that I've done, and you can tell that a lot of those songs were a part of my life. I said, sometimes songs are just stories. Sometimes they just tell a story. It doesn't have to be something that's in your life. Um, it's like a situation. You know, when you hear the content of the song, you obviously know it's not something that's based upon a true story. It's a storyline. It's a plot. It's a plot-driven song, and I really, really, it's one of those things where if you could take a 2-hour Hollywood screenplay and condense it down into a 4-minute song,
Mhm.
that's what this song is about. I mean, it's literally, a crime of passion type of song that could very easily, the basis of the song could basically, you could write a 2-hour Hollywood script on it.
Probably. I remember some years ago I had an app called Songnify, and what it is that it allows you to turn any song or anything like any story or any quote or whatever into a song. So I would take the I don't know if you remember Forrest Gump, but when he was on the bench and he's going life like a
I
box. So I
love
took that part, put it through Songnify, said I wanted a rap, and it just rapped it.
it.
And I'm like,
Right.
wow, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So
It's
yeah,
amazing.
what do you think of rap? That's an interesting genre. Like, what's the story behind rap? Like, could you make a Fatal Attraction or Cause I Can in a rap?
I mean, honestly, I feel like that creatively, I could write rap music. I could
Mm.
organize. I could arrange rap music. There's a lot of people that are, maybe in the country genre that kind of, you know, maybe thumb their nose up to the rap genre.
Hmm.
Um, Once again, I have to say this: it's creative. It's an artist driven thing. People are grinding to make it in the rap game, just like we're grinding. Myself and the Dirty Strings are to try to find our niche. And it's interesting because where I live in Tennessee, I actually live 3 hours west or two and
Mm.
a half hours west of Nashville. I'm right on the Mississippi River. And what's interesting about that is that you have got really two talking about rap, you've got two hotbeds for rap music, literally within earshot. Atlanta and Memphis are
Mm.
known as being large, urban rap influenced areas. And you actually see a lot of that spill over into the country genre, in which you've seen some of that spill over into radio country now. As far as the way I feel about rap music, I can appreciate it. I can appreciate it because it's people that are grinding and doing their thing, and I'll be the first to admit to you, I'll listen to rap music. I listen to it. Now, it's not something that I just listen to on a solid basis, but I recognize hard work and greatness regardless of what the genre is.
Yeah, why do you think that people are so against? Caucasians like Eminem or Vanilla Ice against them doing rap, and rap artists belong to, black people and a different colored skin. And why is it so a controversy? It's just a genre.
I
I
don't think.
mean, I know a rock and roll artist who's black. I know a violinist who's, so it doesn't really make any sense. I don't understand.
Well, what I think is, I think a lot of times people jump to conclusions about things they don't understand. I think what it is that, to be honest with you, music doesn't belong to anyone. No genre belongs to any individual, any ethnicity or anything like that. Because, I mean, to be quite honest with you, I recognize artistry. I'm not the person that, it doesn't matter to me, who you are, your walk of life, your ethnicity. I recognize artistry. I recognize um, people doing things, creating music that's beautiful, or that is creative, or that's groundbreaking. To me, it doesn't really, those negative connotations as it pertains to this genre belongs to this ethnicity. That, to me, that's a I don't even think about it.
I think you're right, Justin. When it comes to also classical, like, for instance, I'm thinking, and while I'm saying this, because Fatal Attraction and Cause I Can, you could literally turn those into a symphony. I know that because during, I think, Jimmy Page's 75th birthday, which was years ago, what they did is they gathered a whole choir together
Right.
and a whole symphony. And you know what song they all played and what they sang? A beautiful choir, Stairway to Heaven. Beautiful.
Right.
And so you could really symphonyize, whatever the proper terminology is, any song. So your Fatal Attraction, someone could take it and turn it into Prokofiev or Chopin. So
Oh,
music doesn't
absolutely.
really, you can't turn Justin Wright's song Fatal Attraction in a no, because the music belongs to everyone, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Well, and to me, I'm somewhat familiar with classical music, and but to me, you take a look at the mood of a Fatal Attraction. The first line in the song is, "A coyote's howling in the middle of nowhere." To me, that just, if you're going to do it classical, I think that could follow like a nocturne, like a Chopin type of nocturne type of thing. So, I mean, I think it absolutely could translate.
So when you take your song Fatal Attraction or Cause I Can, like I know you said it's through experience, how do you know the song was finished? And how do you know that this line was perfect and this lyric was perfect? What kind of challenges and what kind of frustrations and roadblocks did you have until Fatal Attraction showed up?
Well, I will tell you this, is that I've got to give my band a lot of credit for that song. The reason why is, when I wrote that song initially, it came off as a heavier alternative song,
Mm.
and I had gotten to a point where I had written the song off. I said, it just doesn't fit what I we do. And they said, no, it can. And my drummer Greg has been a major influence in helping do this. So the frustration I got was, the only frustration I ever got with this song was when I wrote the song and I was being told repetitively, this song could be this song could be this, and I just couldn't see it myself. Like, I couldn't envision the song being what the song is now, if that makes any sense at all. As far as lyrically and structurally, I thought it was very smooth in terms of the way that we ended up writing it, but in terms of making it fit that mood and everything, that was the real challenge. But once we got into the studio, we had the opportunity to work with Jeff Huskins at BMG Nashville, multi Grammy winning producer. And I tell myself, if he's good enough for Eric Church, he's good enough for Laney Wilson, he's good enough for Jelly Roll, he's good enough for Blake Shelton. He what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen. And, you know, to answer that's, the long answer to your question is this, is that, you know, when we got in the studio, quite frankly, I realized it was done when he told me it was done. I'm just being completely honest with you, because the fact of the matter is this, is if it needed something, he would say, we need to do this. We need to do this. And he's done thousands and thousands and thousands of songs. And for him to come to, you know, he came right back to me in 10 days. He said, Justin, he said, this is a good song. And he said, this song is done. And I said, that's good enough for me. So it was a very, very interesting process. And I think that having those people in my corner helped to really reinforce and to help with the creative process and to get it out.
That's interesting. I really like that. What are your feelings towards love songs? Like, so you wrote a song about your girlfriend or your fiance, but you're no longer in their life anymore. How does that song sound now when you're no longer in that relationship? I've asked
Well,
other artists this, and
yeah.
I want to know what you think.
Well, I will tell you this. You know, my portfolio of song, my portfolio is, it varies. You can tell that some of, you know, certain times you could say, okay, this block of songs was written at this time because this is what he was going through in his life, whether it was heartbreak or finding love or you know, or things of that nature, or he just, oh, in this period of time he was just trying to have a good time. You know, I mean, it was those things. And it's a very, very interesting, because one of the songs that we feel the strongest about, out of my portfolio, we haven't even cut yet, but it's one of those songs that you were talking about. It's a song about loss, and it's about you know, love lost. It's a song about losing a loved one. You know, it's all rolled into one.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the way I look at it is, when I perform a song like that, I don't look at it as me living in the past per se. I look at it to say, look where I've come from. You know, how have I brought myself up out of it? You know, that's really the way I look at it. It's not necessarily a reflection and being mournful on something that I wrote about that I was going through at that time. I look at it as, wow, I went through this in my life and I made it through it, and here I am. So.
But how do you stay motivated and inspired to create new music? Like, you ever come to a point where you're like, what am I doing this for? I started late. Maybe I should just forget the whole thing.
No, I actually, the thing that keeps me going is I look at songs like children. You know, you have the conception, the birth of this thing, you know, the birth of this song. And the thing that excites me is seeing these songs progress. You know, I can tell you this, the last two singles that we have put out, literally when those singles are done and I hear them and I say, wow, that's a finished product, I have never been more motivated in my life to write music. Because what you did is you actually built something that's beautiful and you saw it all the way through, and you're like, I want that feeling again, you know, and I want it to be better the next time. So that's really the way I look at it, and that's the way I stay motivated.
So you're like, I'm listening to my song. Okay, that's done. I feel motivated to write more songs. Is there an irk factor for you? Like, is there like listening to your own songs and realizing, oh, and running away because, oh, really, I wrote that? Because your mindset changes.
Right,
And you're
right.
like, I could have done that better. I said, oh my goodness, really? Oh, what was I thinking? You ever had that enter your mind?
You know, I have on live performances. As far as studio performances go, I think that we go in literally, like I said before, the resources that we have to use are just incredible. And when they come to me and say, I don't really get that irk factor on recorded music per se, but when I listen to a playback on some live stuff, sure. Yeah, absolutely, I do. It used to be really hard for me to listen to myself live, because I would say, pick everything. And then once I realized, I was like, the song as a whole was fine. I mean, but I should have played this chord cleaner, or I could have taken this vocal here. And I used to absolutely just beat myself up about it. When I started performing live, and as it evolved, I've just kind of rolled with the flow. I look at the performance in its totality. I don't look at it. I don't break it down into micro pieces. I really, what I do is I go back and say, how was this performance overall? I mean, it's one of those situations where you take an exam and you make a 98 on it. Why do you want to dwell on the 2 that you missed when you just made a 98?
That's true, because the previous year you might have had 94. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and when you're thinking about an irk factor of hearing your voice or hearing yourself live, do you know what this is?
Oh, believe me, I do. Believe me, I do.
So in the days where I was growing up, around like 20s or whatever, I remember having a tape recorder. I put this in there, and I would go testing 1, 2, 3, and I start talking, and then you hear yourself back, and you're like, that does not sound like me. Like, really, is that how I sound to people?
Exactly.
So you're like listening to a song and like, is that how I sound to people? It's kind of interesting. Justin, do you feel that environment and nature play a part in your music?
I don't think there's any question. I think that, you could even go back to, there have been great psychologists that have said nature factors in everybody's life and everything they do. The nature versus nurture type of thing and everything. And I think that I absolutely think it is. When you're, let's just say you're going through life, and life has its ups and downs. Sometimes you feel like you have a black cloud over you. Sometimes you feel like you're on top of a mountain. And if your nature, your surroundings is that you've got a black cloud, well, it stands to reason that you're probably going to write more ominous type of stuff, or stuff that just reveals pain or shows vulnerability. And so I absolutely think that it's a situation where, your nature or everything that's going on around plays into that. There are points in my life that I felt like I'd hit rock bottom. And
Oh,
if you
wow.
asked me to write a love song when I was feeling that way, I mean, if I did it, it would just be words on a piece of paper. It has to have feeling for it to really be a song. You can't force, if you could force a good song out of you, everybody would do it and everybody would be able to be a songwriter. But you can't do that. It's just one of those things.
Also, Fleetwood Mac wrote a song called, like Stevie Nicks wrote a song called Sarah, and
Right.
thinking that's about a girl named Sarah. Apparently, it's not. It's about something else. So we tend to think that just because a name is attributed to it, or it's a love song, could be the love of nature, could be love for your dog, but you're not going to say, I love my dog. You're going to say, I love my family member or whatever, because most pets are family, right?
Right.
So, and you're talking about dark clouds. Like, I remember someone saying, even myself, I believe now, even though you wake up in the morning, you see a blue sky with a sun, it's going to be a wonderful day. The sun is out, it's a blue sky. But even though there's clouds out, the sun is still there. It's just behind the clouds.
Exactly.
So you can still write a love song, a happy song. Oh, look at that. The sun is out, but it's a cloudy day. But who says that the environment has to make you feel sad? I believe in that whole issue. I believe that environment definitely play in music. Like, if you wanted to, you could write a song right now. But if you wrote that song indoors, it probably wouldn't have the same effect on you. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And I think another thing that has to be, I think it's a variable in the whole thing, is that, there have been so many songs that artists have written that in context to the artist themselves, it was a different context as the ways it was portrayed to, kind of like what you were talking about with Imagine Dragons and everything. And I think that one thing that, when I'm speaking about, I can't write a love song when I feel like I'm completely in the doldrums.
Mm.
Well, to me, I might be writing a song that is reflective of the way I feel, but it may not be interpreted the same way once it's out there and it's released. I mean, that's the beauty of music. Is it is the artists can come from where they want to, but once it goes out there and the public and humanity gets to see it, it's open for interpretation at that point. So yeah, I mean, and I see it completely where you're coming from with that. Yeah.
So with Fatal Attraction, what do you want people to take away from that song? Like, do you want them to feel the same way you felt?
Well, like I said before, I really, to be honest with you, I didn't really, with it being a plot-driven song. I personally think that plot-driven songs, you don't have to necessarily have your nature one way or the other. When I wrote that song, with it being almost like a movie script, when I wrote that song, it really was nothing more to me than I was like, wow, how crazy would it be for this song to be about a woman that cheated on her man killed the guy, and he made her dig the hole. I mean, you know what I'm saying, for him. And then as it went on, I said, wow, you can take this to another level. Why is she digging deeper than she needs to? It's because the hole's for two. And to me, it was nothing more than, it was a plot. Uh,
Hmm.
it wasn't based upon an emotion I had at all. Like, I couldn't, at the point I wrote that song, there's nothing that I could have consciously or subconsciously equated to what I was going through at the time. To me, it was just a concept of a song that I thought was a great story. Or not a great story. I mean, it's a dark story. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying that it was a story that would, I think, could captivate people, and that's merely what I wrote that song on. And a lot of times, when a person writes a love song to someone else, and let's just say the love goes awry, or it runs its course and everything like that, you know, a lot of times people will write about the sheer emotion as opposed to it being about an individual per se, making it, if this song was about Amanda, you know, the, the
Yeah.
song, the song Amanda, and let's just say that the love of Amanda went awry and everything like that. You know, to me, if I'm writing the song, it doesn't matter if the name is Amanda or if it's Jennifer or if it's Stacy or whatever. It doesn't matter what that name is. It's about the actual actions that are going on, because there's people all throughout the world that hear that song Amanda, and they're like, well, they say, well, that's our song. That's our song. The girl's name's not Amanda. It's about the feeling that it elicits. So
Yeah. Yeah. Wanted to. Okay, so there's this song. Uh, Tell me what you think of this song. Is it a love song or not?
okay.
Here we are in a room full of strangers, standing in the dark where your eyes couldn't see me. Is that a love song?
Yeah, I would think it is. I mean, I mean, it's. I think that it could go either way at this point, but yeah, I absolutely think it could be. You're standing in a room full of strangers and standing where only your eyes can see me. I mean, I would say it's going in that direction.
Well, that's the song Nights on Broadway by Bee Gees, because then he
Right.
says, blaming it all on Nights on Broadway, singing them love songs, sing them straight to the heart songs.
Mhm.
But then you have this, if you didn't know this is a love song until you get this hook where it says, I will wait. Even if it takes forever, I will wait. Even if it takes a lifetime, somehow I feel inside. That's a love song, but like I said, being safe, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, and with that first line, it was one of those situations where in my mind I'm going, okay, it could go either way.
Exactly.
I was just, honestly, by me answering, I was just arbitrarily guessing. I was like, well, I kind of need to hear more. And then once you did the other lines, you're like, aha, there it is, there it
Yeah.
is,
That's why
absolutely,
it's that's why it's safe not to tag a name onto it. But
right.
so Justin, do you think your music has evolved over the years?
I think that without question it's evolved, and I think that um, we talked about it, and you talked about at the beginning of the show about the amount of musical influences and everything, the different type of genres. Um, it's evolved, and it's funny because I'm the type of person that will get on a hook of listening to somebody or a band for a couple of weeks, and then I'm like, yeah, and then I go to another band a couple of weeks, and it evolves. And what's crazy is that how broad it is. I mean, I was brought up listening to classic rock, brought up listening to country. That's what people listen to around here. And then, in my years in which I really, really started finding music, the alternative scene and the grunge scene was really prevalent. I mean, it was one of those things where, like I said before, I lived out in the country. I lived on a farm, and I never, in my first 12 years of my life, never did I have cable television, or never did I have
Wow.
satellite television. And then, when I was 13 years old and MTV became available, and as
Mm.
soon as I had MTV available, the grunge scene hit, and it hit hard. And it was one of those things that, and I would sit there and listen to bands like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and I never saw anything like it, and it blew my mind. And I'm sitting there going, is there something wrong with me? Because I've listened to classic rock and I've listened to country, but I really dig this alternative stuff. And yeah, and it has evolved because, as music progresses along, I find things that I like. One of my favorite classic rock, well, I would say, I tell people this, my favorite classic rock band of all time, which, Canadians would be very proud of this. My favorite rock band of all time is The Band. I love The
Mm.
Band. I
Really?
love, yes, absolutely. I love The Band. And like, I just, because the thing is Levon Helm to me is one of the most amazing songwriters in the world, or what was one of the most amazing songwriters in the world. And then you think about how he came from Arkansas and he met this group of phenomenal Canadian musicians, Robbie Roberts, Rick Danko,
Yeah.
Garth Hudson, and the whole crew. And you're like, wow, how did that happen? And then their sounds and the way they would go, because if you take a look, there's their music was so broad in terms of what they did. You find a
Mhm.
song like "The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down,"
Yeah.
that that's just a straight up folk country song. If you ask me, that's what I see. And you find a song like Ophelia, that was just a feels song, that they brought the horns and strings in and everything like that, the orchestra type of thing, that had that jazzy feel to it. And artists like that really intrigue me. you know and then you have The Weight. The Weight is one of
Mhm.
those songs where it could have gone either way. It started off, it sounded like a country song, and then it picked it up, and the next thing you know, this choir comes in behind them. Particularly when you see The Last Waltz and they bring the Staples family in. And it's just people like that, like artists like that, are the ones that really captivate me, that have that versatility, that they don't want to be put in a box, like they sound like this. That's what I've always wanted for myself. Prince is another example of somebody to me that I think just transcends talent. His music was broad, more recent, and this person is not anywhere. I mean, you would not ever put him in the same box as Prince or the band. But and you may not know, Sturgill Simpson is a guy to me that he's he came out with 6 or 7 albums, and every one of them sounded different, but it was his expression. And to me, those are the type of people that uh, really get me going. That's the type of artist I want to be. Is that Cause I Can sounds totally different than A Fatal Attraction, and the next song will probably sound different than all three of them. But the thing is that that's what I feel. I don't feel like I have to stay in a box, and that's important to me.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Justin. You're talking about the band. I know that group, my favorite band, and I have a friend who loved the band. They're full of songwriting is all about experience. Like for instance, Stage Fright is another one of the songs.
Right.
That's an excellent and upon Cripple Creek. Like
Yes.
just write about life. Like if you want to know all about the band, listen to all their album, right? Like they're
Exactly.
so. But the state of music back then is totally different now. So what are your thoughts on the current state of the music industry, like AI, for instance? Like I mean, I don't know how you feel towards it because it's sort of like you're tempted. Well, then I could probably do a duet with Elvis Presley or do a duet with you could do that now
Right.
because
Right. I think that AI, to me personally, I think it's got its place.
hmm
Do I think that artists and musicians should lean heavily on artificial intelligence? I don't believe so. I think that artificial intelligence is one of those things that could provide a great point of reference. I think it's one of those things where if an artist says, "Okay, I'm in the key of D here, but I've got to make this thing flow. Let's type a few things in here and see. Just give me an idea."
hmm
You know, I'm not very keen on the uh, use of AI in its totality with music. I think that it should be. I mean, I think it does have its place as a resource, though.
what about voice cloning? Do you really want to hear a? You probably will want to hear Elton John doing a duet with the famous Justin Wright, but would you yourself, if someone said, "Hey, Justin," or your friend who wrote and helped you write um, Fatal Attraction or "Cause I Can," or whatever songs you have in your library there, catalog, comes up to you and say, "Hey, you know that song we wrote, Fatal Attraction? Yeah. Um, let's see if we can get Johnny Cash or maybe we can get Elvis Presley singing that song or stuff like that." Like I'm telling you that because
Yeah.
I heard Lena Nystrom, who's the lead singer of Aqua back in the 80s, they wrote a song called Barbie Girl. She sang Barbie Girl.
Right.
So they put that to an AI. So they got Johnny Cash singing it. So you know where she goes, you can brush my hair and dress me everywhere. Imagine Johnny Cash singing that. I
Right.
was I was just creeped out.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's how
I've
bad it is.
yeah, I've actually seen, a lot of people, and it was really a major tipping point of, uh, when Beyonce decided she was going to come into country music.
Yeah.
That was a major thing, and it was kind of like you were talking about. I don't think nobody is the gatekeeper to any genre, if you ask me. But anyway, and you can like it or dislike it. That's fine. But the I actually had somebody that took actually a friend of mine, Mr. James Otto. He actually took Beyonce's song Texas Hold'em, and he said anybody that's saying this isn't a country song is all they're doing is they're seeing it from a visceral standpoint. They're seeing what there is in front of them. And he took that song and he actually and James Otto, he's had a couple of number one hits. He was a co-writer for In Color with Jamie Johnson, friend of mine, and
Wow.
he took it up. He took it upon himself. He said, this is a country song. And he said, I'm going to prove it to everybody. And he arranged it, and he sang it with that big D with it. Well, this ain't Texas, ain't no hold on. Well, he took it to a totally different place. And then when he did that, everybody just kind of took a step back, and they're like, wow. And it was so good. He actually cut it and put it. It's on Spotify and iTunes and Apple Music and everything like that. But I say that to say this. We were talking about AI. I saw them take that very same song as well, and they took Hank Williams Sr. did the Drifting Cowboy Band to play it in their tune, and he was actually singing Texas Hold'em. Now,
Hmm.
you asked me how I feel about if said, well, we can get Johnny Cash to sing on your album. Me personally, I don't think I don't like that, and I'll tell you
Mhm.
why. The reason why is I think that no, nobody is the gatekeeper to a genre, but they are the gatekeeper to their music. They are the gatekeeper to their voice. Um, so if somebody said, "Well, Johnny, we could get Johnny Cash to sing a Fatal Attraction with you," I would not be for that. Um, That's me personally. Now, if it was somebody that was alive, that say, let's just say,
John
uh,
Schneider.
yeah, exactly, or Tim McGraw or somebody, and somebody want,
Oh, my
and
favorite.
so, or if it was somebody like that, just throwing a name out there, if it's somebody that's alive, and they say, well, we need to get Tim McGraw to do this. Okay, if Tim McGraw wants to sing on it, I want Tim McGraw to sing on it. I don't want it artificially done.
Yeah.
However, I will say this, is that I do think that there are um, uses where people that have passed away, that the AI could be used, and I think it should be used. The reason I say that is this: is that Prince, when he passed away, he had a catalog of thousands
Yeah.
of unreleased songs. Waylon Jennings is the same way. As a matter of fact, Waylon's son Shooter, who's now as a big producer in Nashville, said that next year they're going to release some of Waylon Jennings' stuff. Whether it's going to be him or someone else singing or artificial intelligence, I don't know. But I will say this much: I think that with Prince writing all of that music that the world's never seen before, and if it's Prince's voice and they can get it there, I'm 110% for using it in that regard. That I
Yeah.
think that I think that warrants that, you know.
But using AI, for instance, like I know Prince had enough songs in his repertoire when he died, he could release 100 albums posthumously, no problem.
Right, right.
But I've heard two songs that were AI generated of Amy Winehouse, and I did not know that they were AI generated to sound just like Amy Winehouse,
Mhm.
but it wasn't Amy Winehouse. So you don't know, it's kind of devious plan about this. We just released an album by Prince, so I don't know where it's going, but the whole thing with using AI to maybe fix a vocal or to whatever, it's a lot better than auto tune. You know what auto tune did to people?
Right.
Like really. Uh, yeah. So when you're doing like a live performance or you're playing your song Fatal Attraction, like how do you connect with your audience? So for instance, either online or in real life, how do you connect with them?
Well, I will tell you this. One thing that we have been able to do, pretty much on a regional level, is we've been able to uh, create a very personal experience with all of our fans. If you go and take a look at our social media accounts, we're very engaging. And one of the things that we try to do is we try to make sure we do that. So anytime we come up and we say, "Hey, we've got this new song we want to play," I will say that I'm pleasantly surprised, because a lot of times, you know how it is. A lot of times people go out to go see bands and they want to hear songs they know,
Hmm.
and that's fine and that's okay. But I've been very, very pleased with the way the people that have come out as a whole have embraced the original music. Really the way that I try to connect with them is that, if it's a song that is got very serious content to it, or has a darkness or has an emotional tie to it, I try to take a little time to explain to them where this song came from. You know, whether it's just a little 10, 15 seconds, say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and play you this original song. And sometimes it's a new original song, one that I've never done before live. I say, hey, I'm going to let you guys know I want to do this new original tune. I wrote this song when I was going through blah, 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 or I wrote this song because of, or I wrote this song for my daughter. You know, I generally try to have that connection with
Hmm.
them by letting them know what the song means to me. And then when I play it out, that song can mean whatever it means to them. But I want them to know what it means to me, because I think when they know that it's not coming from a place of, oh, he just took a pen and paper and wrote a song. At that point, I think people realize that, okay, he's invested in this song, so we're going to invest in, we can become emotionally invested in the song as well.
That's true. Where do you see your music evolving in the future?
Well, as far as evolving, that's a great question. I've never really thought about it because I've been so busy with everything that's going on now. What I would like to do is I would like to try to take on projects, projects that maybe are different than anything that we're putting out right now. I'd also like to work with other artists. You
Mhm.
know, I think that I've got something to offer as a songwriter to other artists, as well as potentially a producer with other artists. You know, I've had other artists that have come up to me and were interested in songs that I've written. I've had, you know, musicians, artists, songwriters that have come up to me and were interested in me helping them along, or they're young songwriters that, okay, I've got this idea. How do you write songs? So what I would really like to see, when I say music, I don't necessarily mean what I produce, but I mean myself as an artist. I would like to see it, you know, I would like to see the scope of what I do evolve and be broader. If that makes
Yeah,
any sense at all, too. Yeah.
it makes perfect sense. But we have one more question for you, but I want to ask you, where can our listeners find your music and stay updated on your music releases?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find our music releases of Because I Can and the new one that has come out of Fatal Attraction. You can find those on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, pretty much all streaming platforms, most all streaming platforms. So if you're not a member of either any of those platforms, then you can more than likely find it. If you want more information on myself and my band, The Dirty Strings, you can go to justinwrightmusic.com. We actually do have a website for myself and the band as well, jwandthedirtystrings.com as well.
Mhm.
Um, as far as our social medias, you know, we are on, you have Justin Wright Music on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok even. We have Justin Wright Music on TikTok as well. And we would greatly, greatly appreciate it if you would follow us on those, because like you said before, the music is ever evolving, and it may be one of those situations where I would like to have some feedback from the fans, like, "Hey, I just wrote this song. What do y'all think about it?"
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, the music's for them. They might as well have the input, right? So,
yeah. I can imagine 15 years from now, if I bump into you and say, hey, who's that great opera singer on the stage tonight? Justin? Just kidding.
exactly, exactly. But I'll tell you before. I know you said that you were asking about that. Before we get out of here, can I think I'm going to thank a couple of people or a couple of groups. Blaze Entertainment is the one that is really helping us get out there and get us in front of a lot of people. Tough Duck Music is my distributor. Big shout out to them. Thank you so much. They're the ones that are taking that music and putting it out there to the world. TSK Music Management, Tara McCurry. She handles our booking and everything like that. A big shout out to her, and and very, I definitely want to thank my band. The band is the Dirty Strings. They're amazing, and they literally are the ones that have reinforced that, you know, we can do this thing. You can do this thing, and they've been there from day one. And I'm just extremely grateful for them. And um, couldn't be happier where we are, and I'm excited to see where the journey goes going forward.
So here's a clincher question for you before you leave. You
Yes,
ready for
sir.
this one? What advice would you give to aspiring musicians and composers out there?
Don't quit. Don't quit. If you ever think that you're not good enough to do this, don't tell yourself that. You will continue to get better and you will continue to evolve. Don't think that the place you're at right now is the ending point for you. You can get better. You can become a better songwriter. You can become a better vocalist. You can become a better musician. Just don't think that the product that you are right now is the product that you're destined to be when you're told no. Keep going forward. That's the best thing I can do to for an aspiring artist. That's the thing that I would say.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Justin. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear about your journey, your creative process, and the stories behind your music. Your insights and experiences are truly inspiring, and I'm sure our listeners have enjoyed this conversation as much as I have. So, everyone, stay tuned for more exciting episodes. And as always, keep exploring the world of music and creativity. Until next time, this is Chris Roberts signing off. Okay, Justin, thank you so much. See you, everyone.
See you guys.